All right. Hello. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing really well. How are you?
Hanging in there. It's another snowy day here.
Oh no. You're in Colorado, right?
Correct.
Excellent. Yeah. I have a friend, one of my very, very bestest friends lives in Boulder, and she's been pretty excited about the skiing. So,
I wish I had time because I love to snowboard.
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's um to do here. I'm putting myself on mute, or what not mute. Do not disturb on the phone. So yeah. So which part of Colorado are you in?
We're actually just south of Boulder.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a super. So I lived in Denver when I graduated from college in like '96, and I spent 6 months, 7 months in Denver, and it has changed so much. It's like not even funny.
Yes, that is so true. I have been here almost 20 years. So
Yeah, like I was there like 20 years ago. So we landed in that part of the universe at the same time. I guess you stayed.
I did, and I was actually in Boulder.
Yeah, well, Boulder is awesome. It's so much fun. It's gotten really big, and like traffic is crazy, but that's all right. So anyway, well, what I wanted to do, I don't want to take up your whole afternoon here, but I wanted to just like introduce myself, tell you a little bit about the podcast. And then what we can do is we can like launch into the podcast recording. And basically the way I do podcasts is I'm going to let you do most of the talking.
Okay.
Because I find a lot of podcasts that I listen to, when the host interrupts with their own thoughts, I already know what the host is thinking. And for like the people who listen to the podcast who are farmers and producers and processors and that sort of thing, they're interested in what you're thinking and what your journey is.
Okay.
Because they know mine. They listen to the podcast, right? So
Well, if I seem to falter or I get stuck, please feel free to help me out because I am slightly introverted. So
okay.
this is definitely like a step outside of my comfort zone.
Good for you. Well, that's
Uh,
really, yeah.
Hooray.
That's really amazing. And so this is what I do when I'm like stepping outside my comfort zone is and like, do you have, like, I can turn my, if you want, can you see my video if I turn it on?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is what I want to show you. Okay, so this is my self-coaching. It says presence, allowance, and sufficiency. All you got to do is be present in this moment. All right, just allow all the feelings that you have. All right, and know that you are sufficient. Like, people are really interested in your journey. All right, and if it helps, I want you to think, let me see if I can get those. I want you to like, hang on. I want you to like think about thinking these thoughts. I have everything that I need in this moment. All right. What's the next one? I don't need anything from these folks. You don't need anything from me. You don't need anything from the listeners. All right. You're like, being here in service and like thinking about them is really, really helpful to get you out of your own headspace. The people on the podcast is someone who needs help.
Okay.
There is somebody out there who has a question that only you can answer. Okay, imagine how you would feel if you thought that way, right? And then you are responsible and you are in control. I know when we're recording a podcast, it feels like I'm in control, but our brains run away from us. All right.
Yeah.
And you are in control because you can think, you can slow your brain down while you're talking, and you can think one thought at a time.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so just if your brain starts running away from you, just think, I got this, one thought at a time.
Deal.
Alrighty, so I'm going to stop my video because I've noticed that it allows for better audio because of bandwidth issues. All right, so I promise I'm here. And so let's do, hang on. Not there, here. Okay, so let's do this. It's just, is it Dr. Barbara Shepard or is it
Barbara Shepard?
Barbara Shepard. Okay, and say the name of your company, huh?
So my company actually started out as Mile High Food Science about 8 years ago. And it's evolving into a new company called AcePack Global.
AcePack Global. All right, cool. All right, evolving into AcePack Global. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and like what this podcast is all about. So I am a food safety coach and consultant, right? And I help people make decisions, first of all, and I help them understand like all of the things that go along with making safe food, and I help them understand why they aren't getting the results that they want, right?
Right.
And that's what we do on the podcast is we talk about where we are, where we want to go. Sometimes we talk about science, you know, like this week we're recording a podcast for future, I think I have a date written down, but I don't have it right in front of me, for future release. And this week I'm doing how to write a hazard analysis. And
right. I saw that. I'm going to join that.
Excellent. So writing a hazard analysis, if you want, I've already recorded the 5 pre-steps of HACCP. And so you can listen to those. Those all lead up to the hazard analysis. So I don't know if you can listen. I'm recording on Thursday morning, so it might be a little much to listen to that, but it all builds on each other. And so what we do is we combine the science and the mindset so that we can create the results in the world that the universe is calling us to create. That's all.
Makes sense.
That's what we're here to do, man. And so so when the questions that I'm talking, did you get the interview questions?
I did. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And so I might mix and match them. I might be able to go, sometimes I can go in order, but not all the time.
Okay.
But it's just designed to like help you tell your story because it's a story worth telling, right? The problems, the issues that you have are universal issues with people who are doing what you're doing. That's why I like literally have a business, right?
Exactly.
So that's really all that we're doing. I am going to, I'll mark time. I aim for interviews between 25 and 35 minutes because I hate hour-long podcasts. I don't have any other reason. But I'm like, I need to like listen to like get something done while I'm like, well, it's winter, while I'm shoveling the driveway, while I'm on my exercise bike, or I'm 20 minutes from everything here in Maine, and I like want to get the meat of the matter like in one car ride.
Right.
So between like 25 and 35 minutes. And so I'll do some introductions and then I'll just let you really introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your history. And then just start in on the questions. How does that all sound?
How far back into my history should I go?
You tell us whatever you want. I recorded a podcast yesterday and she's like, so how did you start your business? And I was like, so I was breastfeeding my now 12-year-old. So, okay. However much you think is going to deliver value to the audience.
Okay.
How's that sound?
I'll do my best.
Okay. You are going to do it just right. Nothing is going wrong here. Just think that. Just think that. Okay. All right. So here we go. So, hi there. I'm so glad that you came onto the podcast. We're so excited to have you here on the Smallholder Food Business Development Institute, Barbara. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about Mile High Food Science and AcePack Global? Let us know about yourself.
All right. Well, first, thank you for having me, Michelle. I really appreciate it. I guess it's to start at the beginning. I moved here to Colorado almost 20 years ago from Louisiana. And when I first moved here, I had an amazing opportunity to make the world a better place. And the opportunity was I was an organ and tissue transplant microbiologist and mycologist.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, it's a very bittersweet industry, and it's a wonderful, wonderful industry to be a part of. After working several years, I contracted with Nestle, and I did a worldwide ingredient audit with them. And in the meantime, I also met my husband, who is a food scientist, and that's really when I started getting into food science, food safety, food quality, food defense, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Nestle ended up closing their Inglewood, Colorado headquarters, and they moved to Ohio. As soon as I moved here to Colorado, I knew that this place was for me. So I went into laboratory management for environmental labs. And I also did a brief stint working at a pet food factory, making raw meat slurries.
Yum.
Let me tell you how fun that was.
Well, that sounds good.
The smell was amazing. I could tell you that my dogs were very happy with me every night. Very happy to see me. So about 8 years ago, my husband was working for the largest dairy company, and we made the decision to start our own consulting business, and that's how this whole thing started.
Okay. And that consulting business was Mile High Food Science.
Correct.
Cool.
So with Mile High Food Science, we're a product development consulting company.
Okay.
And we started about 8 years ago. I apologize for that squeaking noise.
What is that?
It's my dog.
Ah!
Thank you. She's a little cooped up because I apologize for that. All the Anyway, I digress.
No,
So we
that's
started
okay.
science with my husband's Rolodex and our 401ks. So literally from our house, from our kitchen, and we started developing food products for major CPG companies, because that's who our contacts were.
Sure.
In the meantime, we have been able to witness the birth of medical marijuana and recreational marijuana here in Colorado. So it's been an interesting evolution to see most of our clientele being big CPG companies to starting to get marijuana companies. And now, of course, we've seen a big uptick with CBD companies.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, we're working with one of the largest packaging companies in the world. And we understood the processing so well and how to formulate with their processing system, that we started ACE-PAC. So what ACE-PAC is, it's a co-manufacturer for beverages, non-carbonated, using an aseptic processing system.
Right. Okay. So non-carbonated, aseptically processed, CBD-based drinks, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how did you make the transition from like a service-based business to actually producing product?
Well, to me, it's all service-based. And maybe this, this goes back to when I worked at the laboratory. No matter what you're doing, someone once asked me, what makes you happy? And, a big part of that is helping other people. So to me, even with manufacturing, it's all service-based. And I feel that a lot of people have overlooked that aspect of whatever they do, if they're in manufacturing or
Right.
retail. It's it's all service-based.
I think that's so important as a co-manufacturer, somebody who's actually putting, because you're putting other people's labels on the packaging, right? It's not your label.
Correct.
Yeah, so that, no, you're really right. It is a service-based business.
Yeah. And it's whether it's someone you're manufacturing from, or even all the way down to the consumer. And one of our pillars is, I apologize for my very...
Oh, you know what? This is like the real world. We got dogs in the background. We got kids in the background. Like, it's real life.
It is. And she wants to say hi to everybody. She's very friendly and social. But even down to the consumer, to me, it's service-based. I want to make sure that not only do we make amazing products, but that they're ultimately safe for the consumer.
Right. Right. And that is, I mean, like, if you think about it, that really is the service that our consumers depend on, that it's an unwritten expectation. Even if in cannabis, it's really not a written rule.
That's correct. And like here in Colorado with our regulations, I feel like our regulations, at least for the laboratory side, in some cases, our regulations are too strict. And then in other cases, they're not strict enough.
Well, in my experience out in Colorado, and you can tell me if I learned this wrong, but when I had a lab I was working there with, and I used to like audit labs for somebody who was buying them. And I believe it's the law in Colorado that all you have to do is send in a gram for testing.
Yeah, and it's to me, what I've observed, and this is not every lab in Colorado, is there was such a big opportunity that was presented with the legalization of this new category, that everybody wants to get in. But the problem is, when you've got all of this capital to spend and to create something, a lot of people will cut corners and they won't get the right personnel to execute their vision.
Right. Right.
So yeah, like one of the things I've noticed is a lot of companies, they'll buy all this new equipment, right? They're spending so much money on this equipment, and then they'll go hire a recent graduate.
Yep. Oh, yes. Well, one of the things that I talk about with my clients, and I've talked about it on the podcast a lot, is that there are actually 6 assets in a business. And your facilities and your capital equipment is the bottom of the pile. It is by no means the first thing that you invest in. but it's shiny. It's easily funded. It's fungible. It's
Yeah.
like the first thing everybody wants to go get. And like, there are a lot of us who are coming from other businesses, other CPG businesses. I talk to accountants and lawyers and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, can we talk about product and process? And like, I know that's not sexy.
Right. Well, one of the first questions I always ask a lab is I ask to speak with their chemist.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask them to give me, a broad 37,000 foot view of how do you write a method? And can you tell me the difference when you're writing a new method between different matrix types, right? And I like to give this example. If, let's say I've got one glass with Coke in it and I've got another glass with water in it, and I want to analyze it for CBD. And what I've observed is a lot of companies are purchasing a method from ASTM, AOC, one of the big companies.
Sure.
But they're running every matrix type on that one method.
And I'm just going to interrupt you here for people who don't understand what the word matrix is. A matrix is the thing that you are testing. Water is one matrix, Coke is another matrix, Pepsi is another matrix. And so when we talk about a matrix, not your test has to be validated to the matrix. You have to be able to scientifically prove your test works on the thing you're testing. That's all we're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I try to get people to picture, Coke and water, and you want to pull the CBD out. Well, your CBD or whatever you're looking for is going to elute or come off at a different time depending on how it's inside of the product.
Right.
In my experience has been most labs, I get a deer in headlights terrified look of we don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that's frightening.
It is. So in that aspect, I take most lab results with a grain of salt. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the laboratory side to get up to speed.
Right.
So anyway, I digress. I'm kind of a lab nerd.
No, but I think that's a really big strength that you bring to co-packing. And so I guess my question would be is how are you translating all of that knowledge that you are bringing in from laboratory sciences, from doing product development with big CPG companies? How are you bringing that into the new company that you have right now? Because essentially you had an idea baby, right?
Right.
You're bringing these two things together to put a new service proposition in front of people. And so talk to me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that we'll be implementing is we will have the right team to help us write these methods, because I see all these news stories. You see them everywhere. Labs tested 10 products and only 2 had CBD in them.
Right.
I actually suspect more of the products have CBD in them, but the labs aren't accurately and precisely testing them. So one of the things that I want to do is start exploring that and writing those methods. And then once those methods are written, collaborating with other laboratories so that we can actually have good data sets to evaluate products.
Right.
And then the way I see it working is I've observed there's such a move away from plastics. Denver alone is about to they're trying to outlaw even plastics in restaurants. So no more plastic-based to-go containers, straws, etc. And with our aseptic packaging, it's all in uh, cart. It's a carton packaging.
Okay.
And then also in the cannabis industry as a whole, one of the big problems is they don't have sustainable packaging in all of the waste.
Right.
So that's one of the things that drew me towards this, but also I believe that it is the absolute best way to process the ingredient in a beverage delivery system. So it's got a smaller carbon footprint, it's more sustainable, and to me the processing is spot on. It's clean label. We don't, a lot of people are talking about nano emulsions and
Right.
bioavailability. Everybody's throwing out these marketing terms, and I have to tell you, the one marketing term that bothers me the most is water soluble, because
Right.
to me it's misleading the consumer, and if you're going to be deceptive, I don't want to do business with you.
So can you, for those of you, those of the folks listening to the podcast, can you describe what, so you and I know what we mean by aseptic, right?
Right.
Describe in, don't give away your trade secrets, but describe what the process is. So a couple weeks ago on the podcast, we did process flow diagramming, because it's step 5 of the 5 pre-steps. No, step 4, sorry, of the 5 pre-steps of PASSIP is write your process flow diagram. So what's a process flow diagram for your product, for like aseptically packaged in a carton CBD drinks?
So the whole thing will be through an internal system where it doesn't see and it's not exposed to the light of day until the consumer opens it.
Okay.
Now we've been pretty lucky in that we've been able to kind of tailor make our processing solution to go into this so that it safely preserves cannabinoids, in fact, terpenes, etc., in the processing system without being negatively affected by the heat.
So are you doing the extraction there, or are you getting already extracted? Are you getting extractions in?
Already extracted. We definitely view this as an ingredient, and our expertise isn't in the extraction process.
Sure.
It's more of an how to apply that ingredient to whatever function we want.
Got it. So you really help people figure out what their final product is and how to master the ingredients together so that they get that product.
Correct. And when I mentioned when the marijuana industry first became really big here in Colorado, you know, we would go out to solicit business and everybody would tell us, oh, I've been making brownies for 20 years. We don't need your help.
Sure.
There's this big ego involved. And pretty soon they start calling, okay, my brownies are molding after 5 days. What do I do?
Yep. Turns out you need a process, right?
Exactly.
Right. So how do you see your background? Because, you know, there's so many people going into cannabis with a diversity of backgrounds. And I'm not going to lie, like the people listening to this are not the dude bros who are like, hey, let's get into cannabis, dude. That's not the people who listen to this podcast are serious business people who are out there building wealth and community through whatever food or cannabis products that they are creating. So how do you see your background translating into you being able to really service your customers?
The way I like to explain it is we have the ability to help get you from point A to Z in a straight line instead of having to go through a million tangents. So not only do we save time, effort, resources, but then pretty soon we're going to be able to to manufacture.
Right. Right. And how far away from manufacturing are you? Like, where are you in like standing up your facility?
We're looking at Q4, and one of the things we're doing is we're building a customer innovation center here in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we're going to be able to do, particularly with beverages, is we've invested in an R&D unit where we can do small batch processing into sellable containers, 3 to 5 gallons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So that's like a real R&D facility. Yeah.
it will be. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing because doing like, because one of the problems with co-packers is they require such high initial volumes. And you're like, I'm a brand new business. I have no idea if there's the market demand. We're not gonna, and then we gotta make, 2,000 liters of whatever we're talking about. And then I gotta store it. All of that is so epically expensive.
Exactly. And then, I mean, the cost alone for buying ingredients for even a small R&D test run of that size
Right.
is enormous. And
Sure.
it can put startups, it can put that barrier where it makes it out of reach.
Right.
And I believe that the growth of the industry, what we're going to see, is going to be in the startups.
How do you see startups creating wealth and community around you in the cannabis world?
Hopefully they'll listen to us and take our advice. Some people do, some people don't. We've worked with a lot of startups and we've seen some really fantastic success stories.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also, seen the opposite. I think for a lot of people, and this is just my observation, is it depends on your motivation. I've seen people in it just for the money.
Right.
And then I've seen people in it who want to make something great. And it's usually those people that put their company and their products before them that I see succeed.
I think that is one of those universal truths about business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's this huge myth, and let me know what you think about this, in cannabis, in the green rush, that you're going to go in there and you're going to make a killing no matter what you do.
Right. And I think that's a really big misconception because I've seen companies with tons of capital and they just don't make it. And they can't see the forest through the trees.
Oh, I get that. I was at a company and they had a huge investment in
Mm-hmm.
them. And they walked me to their warehouse and they pointed out that they had $750 million worth of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at them and I was like, who's buying that?
Uh-huh.
Because just because you can make it doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
And they're like, and it's like, if you build it, they will come. And people across food industries think this. Like, I was talking years ago, I was talking with somebody who was planting some sort of novel leafy green vegetable, and she's like, I'm gonna make a market for this. I was like, doesn't really work that way. So I think that that's really amazing that you can do really small batch test runs. I think that's phenomenal. Whoa.
So we can actually do small batch test runs, but we're also going to be the only aseptic facility in the US who can also do small batch MOQs for existing companies.
So explain what an MOQ is.
Minimum order quantity. So you picture a big tank,
Mm-hmm.
and most companies, hold on, let me think of how to put this. The existing aseptic plants in the US are currently, they're booked out for years.
Right. Like
And
you
they're
literally can't
so
get in there.
that you literally can't get in there. And not only that, but they won't touch CBD as an ingredient.
Right.
Now, we've custom designed our processing unit. I think I touched on this, so that we can also do small test pilot batches into sellable. So let's say